welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into the future of decentralized governance, or at least one possible future.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
We're looking at Optimism, the Ethereum Layer 2 scaling solution. It basically helps make Ethereum faster, cheaper.
Right, standard Layer 2 function.
And specifically, we're digging into their Season 8 update. It kicks off August 1st. Our mission for you today, to really understand how Optimism is trying to, well, truly decentralize and tackle this thing they call platform risk.
Platform risk.
Yeah, they argue traditional corporate governance just hasn't cracked that nut. It's definitely an ambitious goal.
It really is. And what's fascinating, I think, is that this isn't just some technical tweak,
No,
it's more fundamental. It's like a reimagining of how these big digital communities can actually make decisions. They're aiming to be accountable to all the major stakeholders, not just the people holding the tokens, the financial ones.
Right, moving beyond just the money. Okay, so let's break that down then. This goal of reducing platform risk. How exactly is Optimism planning to bring in more accountability, more participation?
Well, the core idea is this new stakeholder voting system.
Stakeholder voting.
Yeah, they've actually defined 4 specific groups. You've got your token holders, naturally, but then also end users, applications built on Optimism, and even other chains using their tech. The whole point is to stop one group, like maybe the big token holders, the whales, from just running the show at everyone else's expense.
Okay, that makes sense. Trying to balance the power. So it's not just about how many tokens you have.
Exactly. It directly pushes back against that pure token-weighted governance we often see.
Which is a pretty big departure. And I read something about a public definition of citizenship being part of this.
Precisely. So Optimism has these 2 main governing bodies, right? The token house, that's where the token-weighted votes happen for things like protocol upgrades, standard stuff. But then there's the citizens' house. And here, each citizen gets 1 vote. Equal footing. And now, crucially, there's a public definition of who counts as a citizen, verifiable right there on the blockchain. It's broken down into those groups. End users, apps, chains.
Public on-chain citizenship. Wow.
Yeah, it's a big step for transparency, for inclusivity. But, the team is still quite careful to call it an experiment right now.
Experiment, okay.
Which does raise a really important question, I think. How do you evolve a system like this, add these new categories while keeping things stable and, without accidentally creating new ways for power to concentrate?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If you call it an experiment, how do you make sure it adapts properly without just, shifting the problem or making governance too burdensome?
Exactly. It's a tightrope walk. Decentralization versus just getting things done effectively.
Okay, so if they're opening the doors to more voices users, apps, chains, that sounds great for decentralization, but doesn't that risk grinding things to a halt? Decision paralysis.
That's a very real concern, yeah.
So how are they keeping things moving? Is this where the optimistic approval process fits in?
That's exactly it. This new process also starts in August, and the name kind of gives it away. Basically, most proposals will now auto-pass unless a stakeholder vetoes them.
Auto-pass unless vetoed.
Right, okay. Connect that to the bigger picture. And it's really designed so that busy contributors, people who aren't doing governance full-time, can still act as a check. They don't need to be constantly reading every forum post, navigating, endless bureaucracy. The team literally said participating in governance should not require spending hours reading forum posts.
Right, avoiding that full-time politics feel.
Exactly. And this applies pretty broadly to resource budgets, even some protocol upgrades, which are handled by an independent developer advisory board acting for both houses.
That sounds incredibly efficient on the surface. You're shifting the burden from actively approving everything to just actively objecting when needed. Opt out instead of opt in.
Pretty much, yeah.
But, okay, what are the potential downsides? The risks? If you're relying on busy people to spot problems and veto, couldn't things slip through? Not necessarily bad intentions, just oversight.
That's absolutely the core tension here. It's a shift in the trust model. You gain a lot of efficiency, potentially, but the vulnerability is relying on that active vigilance from a community that's, by definition, busy and dispersed. Someone has to be watching.
So wrapping this up for you, the listener, Optimism is making quite a significant move here. They're aiming for governance that's more inclusive, involving different kinds of stakeholders, and seemingly much more efficient with this optimistic approval.
Yeah, it really challenges how we think about governance, both in the corporate world and definitely within crypto. It forces us to ask, how do you balance getting everyone involved with actually making decisions quickly and effectively, especially when you're defining new kinds of participation, like the citizenship?
So here's a final thought for you to maybe mull over. Can this optimistic approval, this pass unless vetoed idea, truly empower more people by lowering the barrier to participate? Or does relying on the absence of dissent create its own kind of blind spots or vulnerabilities? It's definitely a fascinating experiment unfolding in digital democracy.